Okay. Before we start, I want to explain to you what you're seeing here. We have a virtual box on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, we have a Nix shell. It's a special kind of a shell for the Nix operating system. You can Google it. It's a great operating system, and here it helps us getting the same environment every time I go into this directory, and it helps us to actually do some bash magic and execute some Python script. We need to decrypt and encrypt the protected documents. And on the left-hand side, in the VirtualBox machine, we have installed Windows 10. I recorded that video in 2019, so it's a little bit outdated, but it's working the same if you're using it today. And we have an Azure instance configured with Azure Information Protection, and also an Active Directory instance with 2 users. One is called Babdo, which we are currently using here in the video, and also another one which has my name, Martin Grote, and they have different email addresses in order to protect the documents. And also we configured Azure Information Protection here to be usable by the users. So I show you that the system is actually the Windows 10 educational version installed last year with all the required security updates from November actually here. And now I'm searching for the Word icon to protect the document, but I didn't saw that on the right hand side. So be a little bit patient. So now I open it. It's an Office 365 version with the Microsoft Azure Information Protection plugin. And we are going to protect a simple self-created document here with some test sentence. And now I just have to say, okay, please protect that document with restricted access for the group of everyone. You can enter pretty much anything group you have in your company. I just keep it simple and said like, okay, please use the whole organization. And now everybody in the company can open the document and see the content, but can't modify it, with the exception of Bob Doe, who created that document. And that's the first part of the video. You will see in a little moment that the document was copied by me to the shared folder of the VirtualBox, and that we have it later for the second user. You are probably interested in how actually the document got protected. So I use the slides here from my PhD defense to show you how the protection process is done. We have our virtual machine and we logged into this account from Babdo with our username and password. And in the background, we decrypt and unprotect some values, which I will show you in a moment. And afterwards, we created the Word document just in plain text. And also, when you apply the protection, there is a symmetric key used by Azure Information Protection client. And this symmetric key is used to encrypt the plain text Office document. And afterwards, we have that encrypted byte stream. And in parallel, we also said we want to have specific access rights only for all members of the company. So everybody outside of the company is not able to access this document. And in combination with the symmetric key, we encrypt both parts with the help of the server licenses certificate, which is a specific certificate generated by the Azure Information Protection service. And this publishing license is then used and signed by the so-called client licensor certificate private key. And both documents, the encrypted payload or encrypted byte stream. And also the publishing license is then stored inside of the protected document together with the public part of the client licensor certificate. And now we can store this one just on the hard drive as we did in the video. Don't wonder if you see some gaps in the timeline here. I just copied it and cut the important part of the video so you don't have to see all the boring stuff. So we now switch the user to my name, Martin Grote. We have configured for that the email address alice@kado.onmicrosoft.com. And here, just a moment. And we can then copy the document from the shared folder to the normal desktop. Afterward, we can open it in order to see the actual rights this user has. So we have to disable Microsoft Teams here, and you see, okay, it's the same view rights and access the document programmatically. And we are not able to do anything because rights are enforced here. We can't do any changes. And we see that the author of the document is Bob Doe. Yeah, and now we can start getting the correct values from the machine. As soon as a user logs into his account with his password, Microsoft RMS utilizes the DP API, short for Data Protection API, and loads some value from the registry. And afterwards, the unprotected values are another time RSA and AES decrypted. And then the user gets access to the private key of the security processor certificate. This certificate and the private key are, for current implementations, they are generated on the client side and never to transfer to the server side. And this private key is then used in order to protect the other private keys known by Azure Information Protection. So first we have the rights account certificate, which is used to request use licenses, for example. And with the private key of the rights account certificate, which is RSA decrypted here, we can actually decrypt the private key of the client licensor certificate. It's stored also inside the certificate. And if we have unlocked all these keys on the client side, we can, for example, request a use license in order to open a protected document, or with the private key of the client licensor certificate, we can issue a new publishing license on the client side in order to publish a protected document. What's also interesting here, and what we will later see, the actually encryption of the private keys here is done symmetrically, but the symmetric key which is used to encrypt and decrypt these keys here is RSA encrypted with a previous key. So we have a hybrid scheme here which is used, but we will see that later when I explain to you how the Python scripts actually are working. Now that you know how the login procedure happens and the private keys get unlocked, I can show to you how the document gets opened. So we log into the account, decrypt the necessary private keys. Here we only need the security processor private key and the rights account certificates private keys. And we can use this together with the rights account certificate, which we send together with the publishing license to the RMS or Azure Information Protection Service. And there both parts get decrypted. So for example, here the publishing license get decrypted by the with the help of the private key of the server licensor certificate. And now the Azure Information Protection Service can look into the rights. So which user actually is allowed to, for example, read the document or modify it. This is used together with the rights account certificate, where the actually user which requested the use license is also noted. And now this service can generate the new use license and include the symmetric key in here. And it's very important that the use license only contain the rights of the specific user which requested this use license. And also the public key from the rights account certificate is used to encrypt the symmetric key here and the user's rights. Afterwards, the use license gets signed by the private key of the server licensor certificate, and the response is sent back to the user PC, where this use license is again decrypted with the help of the previously unencrypted private key. And now what happens there is that Office is using the symmetric key here, which was decrypted, in order to unprotect the document and open in a protected RAM area the new document, and also enforce the rights which were specified in the use license.